It's safe to say the year 2022 is going to be an insane one for Batman fans because it'll be the first time 3 different incarnations of Batman will be coming to the big screen. We have, of course, Michael Keaton returning as Batman decades after he played the character in a movie alongside Ben Affleck. But what's most surprising of that all is they're in a movie called The Flash. And then, of course, the one a lot of fans are eagerly anticipating is Robert Pattinson's Batman in the new incarnation Matt Reeves has created, coming out in less than a month. With this much Batman coming into our lives, I thought it only made sense that I go all the way back to where this all started with Tim Burton's Batman of 1989, reviewing every live-action Batman since then, Val Kilmer's, George Clooney, Christian Bale, and of course, Ben Affleck's. It's gonna be a hot and messy one because Batman fans are very protective of their characters, so if anything, I expect to end up like the Waynes at the end of this. Let me at least put on my pearls. Do it! So as I go through this movie and the many other Batman movies for the rest of February, remember, this is just my opinion and personal experience growing up having watched all these Batman films. We're all gonna have very wildly different opinions about what we love and hate about some of these characters, but at the end of the day, just leave me your opinions and thoughts down below whether you agree or disagree. But with that now out of the way, let's just go ahead and hit play with Tim Burton's Batman from 1989. And immediately starting off with the title sequence here, we have the Batman symbol coming together with this iconic Danny Elfman score. You should already know Danny Elfman is basically the GOAT when it comes to superhero themes. The man eventually would go on to do the Spider-Man theme. But it is this theme that Danny Elfman created that whenever I think of Batman and the music in my mind, I go back to this specific score. Once we have the title card sequence ending off here, we get a look at Gotham City created by Tim Burton, and let me tell you, starting off strong, because this is my favorite Gotham City that we've gotten out of all the movies. I think Tim Burton and team absolutely outdid themselves with creating this Gotham City because it literally feels like I've stepped into another world. There's so much to love about this Gotham City, not only from appearance, but just the way it was crafted and made for the movie. A lot of the behind the scenes stuff will show you that it was actually a miniaturized city, along with clever camera work, and really it just makes me feel so immersed. This Gotham City is gritty, dirty, crime-ridden. It doesn't feel like any place I've really ever visited, but I just like the feel and atmosphere of it. And I feel like that's how it should always be with DC movies, because while on the Marvel side of things, you have a lot of those heroes living in real-world locations. Spider-Man in New York. Heck, even Captain America says he's from Brooklyn, but when it came to DC, I always thought that they should live in their own world separate from our reality. They have the most fictional cities. They have Gotham City, Metropolis, Central City. To me, their locations should always feel unfamiliar and like a place I can't go visit. But after a little bit of a look in, we are introduced to a family that is now exiting the theater in Gotham trying to find a taxi to head home. This is where Batman fans should really start getting their PSD a-flowing because this feels like a very familiar situation, although I do think it's kind of odd that it was included in one of the very first movies because nowadays we have the pleasure of just knowing Batman's origin. The basic ingredient that we'll see over and over from watching these movies is a family leaves the theater with their son, they decide to take an alley, there's a gunman, someone shoots both of them, and then pearls just start flying everywhere. The pearls are the most essential part of this origin. But back in 1989 with this Batman movie, that origin isn't really as common as we know it today, so it's kind of interesting they decided to start the movie with a minor fake out that only real diehard fans of Batman would know about. But we do see two muggers go ahead and steal the belongings of this family, ending up on a rooftop where they're enjoying their reward.
Hey, all right. American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
And one thing I gotta mention about the way Tim Burton handles criminals and bad guys in Gotham is I like how they just look sickly. Like, honestly, you could tell these guys are malnourished, living on the streets, and I feel minor details like that are awesome, just like the detail here about one of the criminals being afraid to be out a little too long.
Hey, let's beat it, man. I don't like it up here.
What, are you scared of heights?
After what happened to Johnny Gobbs.
Hey, look, man, Johnny Gobbs got ripped and took a walk off a roof, all right?
I heard the Bat got him.
This is then where we're finally getting introduced to a little bit of Batman going ahead on his nightly patrol attacking these criminals. And look, even though to this day I will say that Batman 1989 holds up and I do consider it to be a good movie, I do think in its own way it has earned its own little bit of cheese and campiness, to where I as a kid found this scene completely thrilling and fascinating, just the way Batman gets shot down and then this angle look of him getting right back up and how fearful the criminal must be to see that. Batman then proceeding to beat these guys up and set a precedent that every Batman must follow in their movie, saying his iconic line,
You tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
I'm Batman.
I think it was honestly a great introduction for this version of Batman, and it kind of needed to be because surprisingly, Bruce Wayne does not get introduced in this film until 20 minutes in. That's one thing that kind of really hit me when rewatching this Batman movie is there's a lot of world building to other characters other than Bruce Wayne and Batman. In retrospect, I understand why it's needed to kind of set up this whole new world that people have to get used to for Batman, because before this, all they were used to was Adam West's version of Batman, a version of Batman I'll always respect for its time, but we have to credit what Tim Burton did with this version in wanting to bring Batman into a more serious and dark tone. And on rewatch of this movie, realizing that Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne doesn't show up until later on in the film, it does start to have a dragging quality to it because it introduces us to a bunch of Batman side characters we don't care about. You have your police officer who's one cigarette away from sounding like a transformer.
Sorry, Knox. These two slipped on a banana peel.
Autobots, roll out.
A reporter named Knox that feels like he's in the wrong universe and is acting more like Jimmy Olsen, and photographer Vicky Vale, the love interest of this movie, who also believes Batman is real and out there. In retrospect, they're just not as interesting of characters as someone like Commissioner Gordon, who is very sidelined in this movie. In fact, for most of these early Batman films, Commissioner Gordon doesn't really have a relationship with Batman, at least not a pairing that we would find iconic today. Along with a character like Harvey Dent, played by Billy D. Williams, a character that's eventually supposed to become Two-Face, people that we really associate to be connected to Batman, but they're not used to their full potential. But once we are introduced to these other characters and the inner workings of Gotham City, we finally get introduced to Michael Keaton's version of Bruce Wayne. And this is where I'll admit my bias to Michael Keaton as Batman, because he is technically my first Batman. He's the first person I saw don the costume and the first movie that ever showed me of this character, so I do have a soft spot for him. On the behind the scenes side of things, it's really interesting that his casting as Bruce Wayne was very controversial for the time.
Many hardcore fans are afraid he won't. They have been writing hundreds of letters to Warner Brothers since they found out about the man cast as Batman.
I think that he's kind of a wimp.
It don't seem that it's right, you know, that you should have a smaller man playing as a Batman.
Well, I'd rather see Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I think Arnold Keaton would be good too.
He needs some muscles on him.
I would have liked to seen a sexier person.
He's balding, he's short, he's not broad, he's just not there. He's not Batman.
Something that's extremely common today. Anytime someone new is cast as Batman's, you will have tons of fans online getting on the internet saying how much they hate it and how terrible he's gonna be, only to obviously be proven wrong once the movie comes out. It has happened every single time.
But then this trailer started to play in movie theaters around the country. Theaters reported people coming in just to see the trailer. It shows a dark, serious movie and a tough-looking Caped Crusader.
Tim Burton is able to find this perfect balance of bringing this new Batman for adults with a much darker tone, but at the same time is still able to keep the markability factor of Batman. Like, even to this day, they are still making new merchandise for this movie, and I'm eating it up. And while some will think that's a bad part, that they can go ahead and sell toys off of this thing, it gives this Batman so much personality because this suit is fire. I love the combination of the all black with touches of yellow. The attention to detail in his back cave and the way it's laid out with the computers and then the separate side for where his costumes are. And who could forget the most iconic Batmobile ever put on screen, that to this day, there is not a Batmobile that beats it.
Shields.
Stop.
And probably the most important tool is the spotlight so people can't stare at Batman when he drives. By now you can see I'm a big fanboy of this movie, and I might have a bias because like I told you guys, I grew up with this Batman, so I might go soft on him. Rewatching the movie several times over the years, and even just now for this review, there are some things that rub me the wrong way. One, I don't know why, this was the first time I noticed the duck lips that Michael Keaton has as Batman. The boy looks like he always wants to kiss ya. The only reason I noticed it this time around is because, like I said, they still make merchandise for this Batman movie to this day, and one of the companies I enjoy buying my little horror figures from made a Batman 1989 doll, and I was like, why the heck did they make the lips look that way? That's not what Michael Keaton looks like. And that is what Michael Keaton looks like. Also, with the way they built the suit, even though I'm a big fan of the design, it also caused Michael Keaton's Batman to have a much more slower approach, to where now it's just kind of funny seeing him go to action. But even that became a staple of Batman over the years because many of them could never move their necks, so it made them have this abnormal walk. Also, do not even get me started with the love interest involved with these Batman movies because they're an absolute joke. They fall in love way quicker than a high school couple. There's very little chemistry and build up to these relationships, especially because Michael Keaton's Batman is a damn alpha to women.
I've got an idea. How about lunch at my place?
I've just got to go out of town on business for a few days.
How much do you weigh?
About 108.
You weigh a little more than 108. You're a real nice girl, and I like you a lot, but for right now, shut up.
Jokes aside though, this was the first time out of the 100th time me rewatching Batman where I noticed one major issue. And no, it's not that this Batman is straight up a murderer. Trust me, every Batman on this list that I'm going to review throughout the month of February has their moment where they straight up kill someone, either directly or indirectly, so if we focus on that, we're just going to hate all these Batmen. But Michael Keaton's is the one who does it with like little to no remorse. He'll show up to a factory filled with a bunch of criminals, literally drop a bomb, and zoom out of there.
Oh.
Or maybe even just grab a criminal by the neck and drop him 100 stories to the ground. That's where I think Tim Burton kind of failed in doing his research about what Batman really is about, and maybe even went a little too literal with it because he thinks just because he calls himself Batman, he's a wannabe vampire, because we have a scene where Batman is literally sleeping upside down. You would die if you do that, Mr. Burton. But getting back to the major issue about this movie is, at the end of the day, this isn't a Batman movie. I finally come to realize that Batman 1989 is actually a movie about the Joker. Michael Keaton's Batman in this film has no character arc or development at all. He just exists the way he is without learning any sort of lesson or going through some character growth. Jack Nicholson's Joker, on the other hand, actually does go through a lot of development and change where he's a different person from when he started to by the time this movie ended. I think over the years, people have really started to downplay how much of an impact or how amazing Jack Nicholson was as the Joker. This was a world-class actor who took a lot of convincing and bags of money for him to be part of this, but by the end, I think it was well worth it because he absolutely nails this role as Jack Napier.
Wait till they get a load of me.
That'll be it.
Yeah?
Oh, I got a live one here.
Those are my balloons.
He stole my balloons!
Bob? Gun.
Come on, you gruesome son of a bitch. Come to me.
How childish can you get, huh? You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, would you? Huh?
Tim Burton, I think, does a great job with adapting his origin of a regular little mob boss who even gets shot through the face as an explanation for his permanent smile, ending up accidentally being tossed in a vat of toxic waste that makes his skin pale white. Jack Nicholson eats up every moment he's on screen and makes the Joker a really terrifying person to be around while still being able to keep a little bit of that cheese and camp with it. I like how Tim Burton wasn't afraid to make the colors on the Joker pop out, give him some of his more sillier weapons like the buzzer or even the boxing glove to punch the TV. Even more funny that as soon as he becomes the Joker, not even a day later, he already has henchmen with his logo and jackets matching his attire. That's what I mean when Tim Burton was still able to make a dark, mature movie while keeping this Batman movie very marketable. I even love the touch that this Joker has to wear makeup in order to look regular, and sometimes that makeup will fade off, showing off his real appearance, the white skin. I know the conversation nowadays is that Heath Ledger is the best live-action Joker we've ever had, and while I'm not going to disagree with anybody on that, we have to remember before Heath Ledger showed off his performance, people were saying there's no way you could ever outdo Jack Nicholson. And they were saying it for a reason, because the man set the bar extremely high. It just so happened that the next person to have played the Joker would meet and exceed those expectations. The only real negative I have with Jack Nicholson's Joker is how the movie decided to tie his origin with the origin of Batman. That's where I really think this movie went from being a movie about Batman to more of a movie about Joker. Because throughout the course of the film, we'll see the Joker go through many different plots throughout this movie. He doesn't really have one central thing he wants to do. And in a weird way, I kind of like that Tim Burton would do this a lot with the Batman villains, not necessarily giving them one goal all throughout the film, but giving them multiple things to do, where the Joker starts off by poisoning a lot of the products in Gotham City. Once Batman foiled that plan, then the Joker thought, well, I'll cause a panic and give out millions of dollars to the public. That's then where we have the parade scene, where again, we're showing off how beautiful Gotham looks and the aesthetic Joker brings out, and then Batman coming out with his plane up in the sky with some amazing visuals that Tim Burton created for this film. But all of that finally brings us into the final moments of Tim Burton's Batman, where after the Joker has said his famous, oddly never understood line,
"You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?" What?
Michael Keaton's Batman connects that line to the person who killed his parents, realizing the Joker was the one responsible.
You killed my parents.
What? Huh. What are you talking about?
That's where Batman then is put on a path to go ahead and put an end to the Joker wanting to kill him, and you know what he does? He succeeds! The Batman straight up goes ahead and ends up killing the Joker, ending him once and for all, really giving this version of Batman no character growth or lesson to be learned. He got his revenge, he got what he wanted, he put an end to the person that killed his parents, and now he'll just continue on being Batman. And I want to make it clear, this isn't one of those situations where I'm mad that Batman killed somebody, because by now I've just gotten used to it with the many times they've done it. But having the movie end this way with Bruce Wayne being able to take care of the person who took his parents, he hasn't changed from point A to point B. There was no lesson to be learned here. He didn't grow from the experience. He's still the exact same person that we saw at the beginning of this movie, kind of making this journey pointless. The only person that actually goes through some ups and downs, character changes, development, and then drastic change by the end is Jack Nicholson's Joker. I think a lot of that will have to do because Tim Burton just found the Joker to be a more fascinating, relatable character with his origin than a man who was obsessed with bats. So that is the biggest problem I have with this Batman movie, but that doesn't really make it a bad film to me because Jack Nicholson's Joker is the best part of this film, and it doesn't bother me all that much if this is actually his movie. I still got to see Batman do his Batman things. I still got to see a great performance out of the Joker, and even if it ended with terrible resolution for the main character, I think it's still a film well worth watching. But those are just my thoughts with Tim Burton's Batman of 1989. I'd love to hear from you guys down below what you thought of this movie, and I hope you stay tuned for all the other Batman reviews I got coming up for you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.